Well, good Tuesday evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. It's been a pretty quiet evening weather-wise. Some of us saw a little bit of lake effect snow scattered throughout the day, but it seems like we kind of got a little break from all of the snow that we've been seeing. But Joe, when will all of that snow pick back up?
Yeah, it'll be about a little over 24 hours from now, but we'll have a pretty decent day coming up tomorrow on our Wednesday. And I hope, Maya, maybe a little sun too.
Would be lovely.
It would just to, filter through those clouds, which would be nice to see. We do have that. There's actually a couple of rounds of snow. And not only that, I think another big thing too is there's a round of wind that will come through here. We'll kind of give you a look at that and when that arrives in a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe. Our top story tonight. Did you know that 300 of Michigan school districts have their own community forests? It is because of the state's 1931 Community Forest Act that authorized the DNR to deed land to school districts as long as the land is used for recreational purposes or for forestry purposes. Well, now one northern Michigan school district has an opportunity to potentially use some of that land to potentially solve a housing crisis for some of its staff. So our Allie Baxter has the full story.
We were a little blindsided that we were eliminated.
Bill Whitler is the president of Sleeping Bear Gateway Council. In December, he and others were preparing to present an idea for workforce housing using just 40 acres of Glen Lake School's 180 acres of forest land. With 50% of staff set to retire in 5 years, Whitler says the nonprofit was approached by the superintendent and a school board member.
If you can't have workforce housing live here, they won't have kids to go to school here. Our schools will decline. Our businesses can't stay open. They will close. We will have, this will be a county of wealthy retired people. We can't go that direction.
So according to Whitler, the nonprofit was directed to explore options. Ultimately, the DNR agreed to a proposal to accept a transfer of the 40 school-owned acres back to the state. In turn, they would issue a public use deed back to the school and allow workforce housing as a use of the property. But the nonprofit never had a chance to present their findings to the school board. They were removed from the December meeting agenda.
Then it all broke loose.
As Whitler explains, the nonprofit's motive was questioned, which confused him since he says there's really only two decision makers.
Glen Lake School Board and the DNR. We're there to facilitate, collaborate, add any expertise we can.
This is the presentation the nonprofit hoped to share, explaining the idea and why the school's land is the best fit.
I guess, to me, that's kind of apple pie, America, the flag, motherhood. I mean, how can you be against that?
Whitler says you can't take any 40 acres and turn it into housing, especially in an area with limited connections for water and sewer. And it's hard for him to believe the community would be against opportunities for workforce housing.
We don't appreciate the criticism for trying to do the right thing for the community, but that comes when you step up to make change. That's what you get. And then we're willing to take that heat to try to do the right thing.
And Allie is joining us live now from our content center to dig a little deeper into this story. So Allie, just so I know that I'm understanding this right, this idea to use some of the land to build workforce housing, it was something that was originally brought up by the school superintendent?
Yeah, so as it was explained to me by the Sleeping Bear Gateways Council, they were approached by a member of the school board and the school superintendent saying, this is the situation that we're in, which is what a situation a lot of different school districts are in right now. They have a lot of staff that is retiring and they aren't able to bring in new staff to take their places because there's nowhere to live. So they know that looking down the road that they have a housing problem. They have a housing crisis where they're not going to be able to have staff if there's nowhere for them to live and there's nowhere affordable for them to live either. So knowing that was the case, they approached the Sleeping Bear Gateways Council to see, hey, what are some options out there? And one of those first options before was even decided, well, let's look at what we could do maybe with the school forest land, was that the council also went to the National Park Service to see if they would be willing to set aside 40 acres to do this. And the Park Service said, that's not something that we can do.
So since the nonprofit hasn't had the opportunity to present their presentation to the school board, do we know, is this project just completely shut down? Is it at a standstill? Where does it stand tonight?
I would say it's definitely at a standstill right now. It seems that the statement that the superintendent had sent to us from their December meeting, that the board just kind of wants to pump the brakes a little bit and really look at all of the different things that they already used the land for already. And I do want to clarify that this isn't asking to use their entire property for this affordable housing. It would be using 40 out of 180 of those acres, and the rest of the acres would still be given to the school for their use as well.
So is there a chance that the school district is now going to try to take this idea and make it happen somewhere else if it won't happen on this 40 acres of land?
I'm not sure, but we've been told there's potentially an upcoming meeting to hear from different sides about, how they use the land, what goes on with the land. We know that one of those people that hasn't been invited back to present yet is the Sleeping Bear Gateways Council, which is the nonprofit that kind of had all these plans drawn up and figured out some of the different things that would need to happen for Glen Lake to be able to use that land for some of its staff potentially coming to work for them.
And then can you go into a little more detail about the DNR's role in all of this?
Yeah. So like we were explaining a little bit earlier in that story, the Community School Forest Act is what deeded this forest land to the schools, and that was deeded to them by the DNR. So the DNR's role in this is that technically they are the stewards of and they own this land. It was deeded to Glen Lake and other schools across Michigan that have this agreement in place. And they said, okay, well, you guys are restricted to use this land for only two reasons, for recreation purposes or for forestry purposes, like getting timber and stuff like that. So they said, hey, if you deed it back to us, there's a chance that we can deed it back to you for public use, and then you could use that for housing. So that's their role in all of this.
And I'm assuming since this conversation wasn't discussed at that December school board meeting, that we really don't know how the community feels about this or how any staff at the school feels about this, right?
Right. All we really know right now is just conversation on social media, which you never know kind of like numbers wise how that balances out, because you're only hearing maybe from one side or the other on social media. But we know that there are some split feelings about this. A lot of people do think that why are we taking away a certain revenue source? And I think because there is that misconception out there that the entire property would be taken away and used for affordable housing, when really it is just that 40 acres.
And right now, is the entire forest property used just for like students to be able to go out and recreate? And like, what is it used for right now?
That's something I wanted to figure out today, Maya, and that's why I'd reached out to the superintendent in the first place. I had asked him, even if you can't really talk about this proposal right now, tell me what you do with your school forest land. I want to know how you utilize it. Do you take students out there? Because every school district can use it a little bit differently. And he said he wasn't able to comment on either of those.
All right. Well, do you know, is this something that Bill and the nonprofit, are they going to continue to try to kind of like fight for this? Like, hey, just a reminder, we do have this plan. We do think it would be a good idea. Or are they just going to let the school district kind of come back to them?
Right now, it seems like they are waiting for the school district to come back to them. They said, right now we're just kind of waiting to be invited back to give this presentation that in their eyes, they said, hey, we were directed to gather all this information. And they said, hey, even if they come to us and say, this is something that we're just not really willing to move forward on anymore, that the past year and a half, all that research and design is not something that we want to do. He said that's totally fine as long as they are communicated with. And he said they're willing to keep looking.
Anything else, Allie, that we haven't discussed yet that you think is worth mentioning about your story?
Yeah, I think mostly kind of just a fun fact. I think we are airing Mark's story as well after this. Well, Mark's story focusing on the Empire School. That was actually the school that the land was originally deeded to. Then sometime in the 1900s, all those schools came together to be Glen Lake Community Schools. But actually the deed is in that original Empire School's name.
No kidding. Well, perfect transition into Mark's story. So Allie, thank you so much for joining us on Unscripted. We always appreciate it. So yes, tonight we are continuing the conversation about schools and land. And like Allie mentioned, Mark Shillette went to the old Empire School. Now, this is a building that's been closed for quite some time. And when it comes to old buildings, they usually have a couple different futures. Either they'll get torn down and maybe get rebuilt, or someone will kind of step in and try to save and resurrect that old building. And that is exactly what is happening in Leelanau County for the old Empire School building. One man has a vision to transform the building and make it a great place for visitors and for the community to use. So here is Mark Gillette with that story.
To me, it's a national treasure.
Talk with Joe Van Esley, and it's pretty clear. The former Empire School holds a pretty special place in his heart.
There were craftsmen, and if you look at the stonework, and if you go in there and you see the beams and everything else, it won't be reproduced. It will be gone. If it was gone, it's gone.
So 2 decades ago, when he was visiting from downstate and saw a for sale sign on it, well, he became its new owner.
Owner. I don't own it. It owns me.
Completed in 1901, the very fancy for the time 4-room schoolhouse served students until the last students left in 1968. Since then, a few different owners, but not a lot has changed.
Oh, it's got a full court gym in it, and it's got a basement, and the basement has the locker rooms and in the showers.
10,000 square feet that served a purpose for decades ago. But that Joe says could serve a purpose for years to come. He's proposing a multi-use redevelopment of the building, keeping the good bones it has and letting the community drive what's inside.
And I envision, a lot of people from the community coming there and getting a sandwich and a coffee and taking yoga or playing cards or, kids, daycare for kids or whatever it evolves in.
He says it will evolve to not only meet the high summer traffic numbers, but those who live here year-round as well.
In order to be successful, the more the merrier.
Before it can be used, work needs to take place to take that solid craftsmanship of the past and turn it into a space for the future.
We're doing a historic restoration. We're doing a brownfield. We're going to do energy efficiency. We're working with Consumers Power for energy efficiency in the windows, for the HVAC, for the insulation, for the lighting.
That will come. For now, Joe's listening to the needs and working through the process, hoping that this building can once again serve the community that surrounds it.
It's not functional. We want to make it functional. And if we have people from the community involved, then it will be its highest and best use.
That was Mark Gillette reporting. And like Mark mentioned, right now, Joe is really focused on listening to the community and what the community would want. He said he's also going through the process of working with the MEDC and local governments to figure out what the best next step is. Now, while it has taken a fair amount of time to get to this point, the hope by Joe and some others in the community is that the project picks up momentum and finds its new purpose quickly. Because, oh my gosh, what a beautiful building. And just to be able to kind of preserve the history of the building, but make it a place where people are coming and going again would be, I'm sure, so great for the Empire community. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. But coming up next, we are going to bring in our Chief Meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. He'll have much more on your forecast. We're also going to pull up our question of the day, which we are saving for our next segment because it is weather related. So all that's coming up next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Okay, we're going to bring in Joe in just a minute, but first let's pull up our question of the day related to the weather. My neighbor today said, it snowed every day since Thanksgiving, and he followed that up with, that's why I'm moving to California in 10 days. So good for my neighbor. But anyway, how many times have you had to snowblow, shovel, or plow your driveway this winter? Scan the QR code on your screen right now. Right now, 34% say 0 to 10 times. 39% say 10 to 20, and 27% say more than 20 times. So, Joe, how many times have you had to shovel or plow or snowblow your driveway area this winter?
Well, shovel, I lost count for sure.
Oh, yeah, more than 20?
Yeah, plow, I just got the bill. So I think I'm over 8 at least to have it plowed.
Yeah.
I can get out usually pretty good, but sometimes it just piles up so much. I think that's an interesting question, though, Maya, because, it depends where you're at, too. I mean, if you're in Gaylord, remember that snowiest, they had 50 inches in like 2 days. Quite a bit. So we've had more snow than usual. I think the only exception is Alpena, which is running a little below normal. On that note, too, one more thing. Gaylord already has picked up, I think, close to, or they're right at about where they should be for the entire year, and we're only in early February.
Wow.
So they've really gotten, a lot of snow. Let's take a look. This is, speaking of snow, this earlier today, Dan Tinknell is running the show. He's back in the control room. He also is our drone pilot and took this beautiful video earlier today. It's beautiful in many different ways, but there is snow obviously coming down some of the hills there. This is near Glen Lake earlier today in Leelanau County. Nice video there. All right, 3 big things in weather. Here's what we're looking at across northern Michigan. There are multiple chances for snow still in the forecast. The 2 big ones are Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and then Saturday afternoon and night. Maya, I'm telling you right now, I know you like to go out on the weekend, have fun, do your thing.
Sure.
Sometimes. Saturday night, it's going to be snowing.
So I might want to be home Saturday
Just
night.
giving you a heads up.
Okay, good to know.
Yep. Very windy Thursday afternoon and night. That's the other thing. Some gusts to 45. And then, we're looking at pretty typical early February temperatures, mostly 20s in the extended forecast. Not a lot going on in terms of any major weather features. Here's the old weather map tonight. High pressure up near Winnipeg, cold high pressure there. But that cold air is working over the Great Lakes. And so, we've had some lake effect snow in spots in the lower peninsula. This is kind of tapering off. This is light snow, mainly in Antrim, parts of Charlevoix counties currently is where that is falling. And then across the UP, there's a look at some of the snow. I still think around Sault Ste. Marie, you might get another inch or so of accumulation tonight, maybe 2, back up toward the Paradise, Whitefish Point areas if you're tuned in up that way. Here's what we expect. Not much lake effect snow tonight, and tomorrow is kind of the quiet day of the week. I think some sun filtered through clouds, but dry for our Wednesday. And then here comes the snow Wednesday night into Thursday. So by the time we wake up Thursday morning, here's that batch of snow. It'll be a bit messy mid-morning into the afternoon, and then that'll kind of turn back over toward more of a lake effect snow scenario Thursday night into the day on Friday. If you're wondering how much snow, here's our thoughts. Not much tonight, but here's that system right there rolling in Wednesday night into Thursday. And by Thursday evening, our northern areas are looking at 3 to 5 inches of snow with this. You get south of you draw a line from Traverse City to Alpena, south of there, 2 to 3 inches is expected. I mentioned the wind. I do want to point that out. This is Thursday morning. Not bad Thursday morning, but watch what happens in the afternoon. Yeah, see how the wind really picks up? These are the highest gusts, but some 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts are certainly possible Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, before winding down on Friday. And there's your extended forecast. A windy one Thursday and Thursday night. Snow Wednesday night into Thursday. And again, more snow Saturday. It looks like mid to late afternoon through Saturday night. That could actually be a bit of a heavier snow mid-weekend. We'll keep an eye on that, Maya.
Snow just doesn't want to stop, does it?
Right.
It's almost like it's winter in northern Michigan or something.
For sure.
All right, thanks, Joe. Let's take a quick break, but we'll check back with our sports director, Harrison Beebe, and see what he's working on for sports today in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. To get us caught up in all the latest sports action, let's turn things over to Sports Director Harrison Beebe. Take it away, Harrison.
Hey, Maya. Yeah, once again, hanging out in the digital studio tonight as we get ready for a pretty busy night in sports. Although I'll tell you what, if you're a Michigan State or a Red Wing fan, you're going to want to set those alarms a little later because they're both playing at 10 o'clock tonight. Obviously, college basketball only goes about 2 hours, so you only have to stay up till about midnight if you want to watch the Spartans take on UCLA out in Southern California. The Red Wings going up against the Seattle Kraken out in the Emerald City. Wings trying to win 7 in a row for the second time in the past just over a month's time span, which is just an insane stat to think about. The Red Wings are on the playoff field right now. Michigan State still trying to hang atop the Big Ten conference standings. So a lot really up for grabs. And maybe you will want to be a little sluggish on a Wednesday and stay up late and watch those teams in action. You have that right to do so locally here in Northern Michigan. I'm going to be prioritized with a little matchup in the Highland Conference. The McBain Ramblers have kind of been the strength of that conference for a good several seasons now. They've made a few runs to the Final Four in my time working here in Northern Michigan, including last spring when the group was down there at the Breslin Center, suffered a loss in overtime in that semifinal in Division III. They're ranked top 10 in Division III once again, but they do have one loss in conference, and that was to Beal City back in December. A little bit of a surprise, maybe. Keep in mind, this is a Beal City team. Some of the athletes might have rolled over. The Aggies won a state championship in high school football back at Fort Field in November. So maybe some of those athletes are helping Beal prove that they're a tough out in the Highland Conference. You see them both tied with just one loss in the league standings. McBain's got that extra win, although that'll even out by the time of the regular season wrapping up by a few weeks here because district play will begin in under 3 weeks. Tonight is the Beal City McBain game tipping off in just minutes. I'm heading down there, and we'll get you highlights during the 11 o'clock sportscast, see what happens between the Ramblers and the Aggies to see who takes the lead, the pole position for that conference here as we head into the final few weeks of this season. That's pretty much going to do it for me. We'll also do a little more Super Bowl talk tonight during Sports at 11. But for now, reporting from the UpNorthLive Digital Studios, I'm Harrison Beebe for Unscripted. Back to you, Maya.
Thank you so much, Harrison. We're going to take a look at the live results for our question of the day and some of your comments coming up next.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
How many times have you had to shovel, snowblow, or plow your driveway this winter? Live results on your screen right now. Looking at a few comments, Tracy says none in the thumb. We really haven't had any snow this winter, so yeah, it really depends on where you are living. Carrie, on the other hand, says way too many times. It doesn't help, but by the time I'm done shoveling, the plow comes and throws snow back into my driveway. Jeffrey says 30 times. Scott says none. I went to Arizona this winter. It's 85 degrees today. Scott, you are a smart and lucky man. I'm so very jealous. Luckily, I live in an apartment, so I don't have to shovel or plow. So that's been nice too. Thanks for joining us on Unscripted. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock tonight.